Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
So I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the GlowCloud team.
All right, welcome everybody to another Cloud Computing Career Q&A session from Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer here and I'm joined by Mike and Alonzo. We are excited to have Mike back with us this week. So we come on YouTube every week to answer your questions about anything cloud computing career related, whether it's a cloud architect related, cloud engineer related, cloud architect careers, cloud architect career training. Already see some questions about the enterprise architect versus the cloud architects, or the infrastructure cloud architect. So any questions that you might have about cloud computing careers, we are here to answer, and cloud computing career training, we are here to answer. So just a little brief introduction. The team on this call has over 50 years of leadership experience, and we're here to help you, and we want to help you build your best technology career. So, of course, we've got Mike, our founder and CEO, down there at the bottom. He has been in tech for 25 years and has held elite architect positions for 2 decades as a network architect, enterprise architect, and cloud architect. Then next, we've got Alonzo over there to my left. I think that's my left. Yes, that way. We've got Alonzo, our Chief Marketing Officer, an expert on marketing, branding, strategy, and leadership. And he's got 30 years of marketing experience with major global organizations and has led major cloud projects in his career. And he helps our students build that elite brand that makes the world come to them. And then, of course, there's me. As I said, my name's Chris Johnson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here. And I have nearly 15 years of HR and operations experience from the business world. So we're here to help you. We all hold MBAs. We've got the skills from our extensive careers to help you not only get hired, but put you on your path to long-term career success. So let's have some fun. Let's ask some questions. Don't be shy. And we're here to help you reach your dream career. But before we get started, I've got a couple of things that I want to tell you, and then I'm sure Mike wants to talk. Since Mike's been away for a little bit, I'm sure Mike wants to talk. But I've got a couple of things to make sure everyone is aware of. So starting tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern time, Eastern Daylight Time, since now we're in daylight time. But it's 12 noon tomorrow through Friday, which is my birthday. Happy birthday, me. We will be doing our free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. Make sure to register and attend this great free bootcamp. We're going to be doing this for 4 days for at least 3 hours per day to provide you the best possible understanding of the technologies and services that are available and covered on the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate certification exam. The key word there is the understanding. Certification, unfortunately, is focused on name of service, how to configure it, and just in general, very loose and vendor-specific terms of what it does. We focus on the understanding. So, member of our team should be posting a link for that bootcamp registration in the chat box. You can also find it in the description of this video. So make sure you register for that. Then also this week, we have our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. This will be on Thursday, and this will be at 7 p.m. Eastern time this week. Normally these are at 1 p.m. Eastern time, but this week, because of the bootcamp, we will be doing it at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so make sure to join us for that. And I'm going to let Mike talk about that. Mike loves to talk about what we talk about on the webinar. So I'm going to let Mike talk about it and let Mike talk for a few minutes before we get started.
Absolutely. So join us on the webinar on Thursday night, and we're going to cover a lot of things that are truly going to help you in your career. First, we're going to actually tell you what an architect is. And I wish I didn't have to do this, but 95% of people misunderstand the architect role. They spend 18 months, 2 years, thousands and thousands of dollars. And in the end, they don't know what an architect is, and they're trained to be everybody other than an architect. So we're going to make it clear what an architect is. 2, we're going to tell you exactly what the hiring managers want in you. And we've interviewed thousands of hiring manager recruiters and other technology professionals and C-level executives. So we know exactly what they want. Want to know how to sell something like yourself? Be exactly what your customer wants. And when you have the perfect product, which we'll tell you how to be, the world is your oyster. You can get hired by anyone, anywhere, anytime. too. We're going to tell you the secrets in this to making sure that you earn another $50,000 or $100,000 more than the competition. Because how you present yourself, the right knowledge is everything. We're going to tell you how to get there and everything that you need to know. And it's going to surprise 80% of you that are out there who are learning things like DevOps or maintenance or coding. It's not architect work. We get people hired every day as architects. And whether they're people like Noah, who was a social worker, who just got his first cloud architect job, or Vladimir, a college student who got hired, or Delroy Batt, who worked on ambulances that got his first cloud security architect job. You can too, with the right training. I started out as a senior engineer with zero background, and 6 months later, I was lead architect at the world's largest internet service provider, and I've been an architect ever since, and you can do it too. So we're going to tell you everything you need to know on this webinar. You can ask us career secrets, how to get ahead, and everything you possibly need, and we'll be there, and I'll answer your questions live along with my great team. Like I said, Alonzo's got 30 plus years of marketing experience. Chris has 15 years of HR and leadership experience, and I basically have 30 years of professional experience as well. That's over 75 years, which is actually scary between the three of us. So I don't want to even admit that right now, but the point is we can help you get to your goals, and I want to help you get to your goals.
All right. Alonzo, anything you'd like to share with us before we get to these questions?
Yeah, Chris, as always, it's wonderful to be here with everyone from all over the world. I think that's just a wonderful thing that people are tuning in. I saw Pakistan, I saw many different other areas and countries, and that we have what this type of value where people are coming together to be unified in the cloud architectural space. And I'm just grateful for us to come together, and I'm looking forward to answering their questions.
All right, so let's get with a good one. We'll let Mike take this one since he's been in absentia for a little bit. So Parnell asks, what is an infrastructure cloud architect, and do you cover this specialty in your program?
And Parnell, and you got a couple of questions in there, and we're going to get to them. An infrastructure architect is someone like me that truly focuses on mission critical high availability systems and focuses on the network and the things that make it possible. The reality is all cloud architects do, but infrastructure architects have more knowledge in BGP, they have more knowledge in WAN technologies, they have more knowledge in designing the IP addressing plan. And we cover how to become an architect, and we build a customized plan for everybody, regardless of the architect. If they want to be a cloud infrastructure architect, a cloud security architect, or just a standard cloud architect. Now, the second question that you're asking is the next one, which I want to get to. Chris, if you can put up the second half of his question out of his specialties, because he's asking the wrong question, and I want to help him. Where he said now here's where you're asking the wrong question, Parnell. Your question is, out of all these specialty architects, infrastructure, database, security, IAM, which specialty is highly sought after? IAM is not a cloud architect. It is an identity and access management. Database is also not a cloud architect. It's a database. But there are cloud infrastructure architects, network architects, and security architects. I'm going to tell you right now, the lowest paid of anything is going to be IAM when it's going to be database work. By far, it'll be the lowest paid, and there'll be the least opportunity there. But of infrastructure, networking, and security, a good architect can get a job in less than 2 weeks. Anyone with any of these roles. But you're missing the key thing. If you focus on the technology, you're going to have the worst career of anyone. If you focus on the business and how you improve business performance, you're going to have a better career. So here's what an architect does. It's nothing like what's covered in the AWS certification. Nothing. We go meet with the customer. We ask about their business goals, their business pain points, and their business challenges. From there, we go back to our organizations, we build a team, we design the solution, we go back to the customer, we present it back to them, we sell it back to them, we document a solution, and we help negotiate the contract. So the best architects, and I'll give you some examples and some salary examples, are the people that don't focus on the tech. Focus on the tech, salary down here. Focus on the business, which is the architect's job, salary up here. So which do you want to be? Now, if you truly love the tech, I'd say focus on networking. Why? Because nobody focuses on it. There's probably 5,000 people in the entire world that truly know BGP. 5,000. Now, when you focus on the network, you're in a class of your own. But, to be fair, it took me 75,000 pages of reading to get my intro to networking with the CCIE. And if you want to be a good cloud network architect, you're going to need at least 75,000 pages of reading just for the network, because networking is far more complicated than the rest, which is why I know CCIEs that are earning $500,000 a year, but it's rare. But the people that focus on the business earn a lot more. So focus on the business. So if you solve the customer's problems, if you improve the customer's business, now you're talking. So stop worrying about the technology unless you love the technology. I'll give you a couple examples of some jobs that require business acumen. Now, according to salary.com, which is in line with everything we've seen, the average person with strong business acumen experience earns $553,000 a year. Now, when you move into principal architect roles or management roles, you're getting into this realm. And I'll give you some examples. So here's a principal architect at Google. Now, they're not focusing on the tech. They're focusing on how to make your business better. And you can see the average is about $508,000 a year, and the range is $394 to $677. Your interview skills, your business acumen, your leadership skills determine your salary there. I'll give you some other examples that we can actually look at jobs that have business acumen, which is why I'm telling you, focus on the business, not the tech. Let the engineers focus on the tech. They love the tech. I want you to have a great career. Now, here, for example, is a job. I believe which one did I click on? Here's a job for a senior director, another business acumen job, which is a great place to go from a cloud architect if you're not so focused on the tech. If you're focused on customers being more successful with their business, this is a real architect thing. So, once you're a senior director or a VP, you're all architects. Even a CEO is an architect. They architect the business. Senior director architects the team and all the things they're going to do. So they're all architecture roles at that point. So there you go. There's another one. Now, let me go to another example that I can show you. And I'll share you one. I'm going to go to Microsoft next. I'm going to do AWS last. I don't know why people are obsessed with working there. They're the lowest paid organization of the bunch. But, I've got lots of friends that work there. They're a great cloud. Now we can look at Microsoft, for example, and get another job focusing on the business. Average salary is basically $380 with a range of $300 to $500. And that's all based on your business acumen and your communication skills and your soft skills. And I'm going to go the last one, which I'll probably show you, which is AWS. And there's better jobs than this. You can work at banks, for example, that need them, global retailers, all kinds of organizations. Here's the last. Oh, no, this is Microsoft. I already covered Microsoft. Let me share a different one. Apologies for that. It's hard to be able to see all the things.
That was Amazon that you were sharing.
Oh, it was? Okay, let me
Yes.
go back. Okay, perfect. So as you can see for Amazon, which is sitting on the screen, $372,000. So don't focus on the tech. Focus on the business. That's my recommendation to you. Any architect can get a job instantly. And here's the thing. A real architect has MBA type knowledge. And we teach it. A real architect knows how to solve customer problems. A real architect knows how to lead, how to sell, and do all these things. So don't focus on the tech. Focus on the digital transformation piece, because I can get any good architect a job in a day or two. I mean, literally, it's as simple as, if you're that good and you have the brand like Alonzo has, my students get 5-10 people reach out to me today. Getting a job is nothing. What's something is being able to have a job and stand out from the crowd and command an extra $100,000. And I showed you all these jobs had a nearly $200,000 pay differential between the top and bottom person. And now I'm teaching you how to get it. So Pernell, I hope I answered your question. If not, please come back and ask me more. I'd love to help you get there. And if you love the tech, I can tell you how to master the tech. But for me, I'm all about maximizing all of our following careers, helping them earn more, get hired, and reach the top much faster than the rest.
There's a good follow-up to this, but I wish I could limit your time. But you have to continue going on this one because this next one just follows right alongside of it.
Okay.
I will give you a break by adding a little bit of preface to it. He further asks, after several years in the industry being a cloud architect, which specialty architect will most likely succeed, be in demand as an independent consultant? I will preface this by saying a cloud architect as a single consultant all by themselves is not something to aspire for. That is not a goal that will be a very difficult and arduous path to attempt to try and make a viable business for yourself. I'll let Mike continue.
So Purnell, if you're an architect, you're not on your own.
Right.
You're not. It's a team. I've never done an architecture which required less than 15 people, ever. So if you want to go out on your own and you want to hire $200,000 people to be able to do that, you can do that. But, it's going to cost you. You've got to better come up with millions of dollars. Now, also, why would you? There's chief architect roles that pay $800,000 plus. You could take the architect role and move into a CIO or a CEO role. So by trying to go out on yourself, you're really handicapping your career. Now, I get it. Some engineers, because engineers aren't paid very well, are trying to look and go out on their own and be a consultant for more money. But as an architect, it's a lot easier for me to say, hi, I'm Mike Gibbs at Cisco. I've got a solution for you. They're going to be interested. Hey, it's Mike Gibbs. Well, after 25 years being at Cisco, WorldCom, which is now Verizon, people know my name. I can just call a CEO. So the answer is, could you do it after several years? Sure, you could. And again, it has nothing to do with the specialty. Nothing. It has all about, your context, your connections, how many people do you know? Because you're never going to design anything on your own, ever. So who are your connections? How big's your Rolodex, as we used to say in the old days? Who can you get on the phone? Which CEOs can you call? What kind of negotiation can you do with businesses to drop down the price?
Oh, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. I would argue what you just talked about in those last 15 seconds on your own as an independent consultant, you're not actually architecting solutions. It's more of a business consultant at that point, because you're a single person providing consultations to a business. You're not actually, unless they bring you in for very special projects, which are few and far between. Would that be safe to say that that's more of a business?
It would be safe to say, and I think unless you're willing to pay about $3 million of salaries per year and spend a few $1 million on marketing, there's no way that you could do these kind of roles on your own.
Yep. All right. Emmanuel asks, what is the takeaway from the AWS bootcamp? Will it be sufficient as a preparation for the exam?
So, Emmanuel, I'm going to cover this. We're going to teach you a lot of what you need to know to be functional in this world. We're going to teach you which AWS services not to use, and believe me, there are plenty. But we don't focus on the exam. We focus on getting you knowledgeable, and there are two different goals. There's 1,000,001 certification courses out there that can help you pass an exam, and guess what? We interviewed 1,000 of them, AWS Certified Solution Architect professionals. 0 of them knew anything about architecture. So we're going to spend more time teaching you the underlying technology to make sure you understand it. But you should be able to pass this exam with our training. Many others have. But I'm going to recommend you get a practice exam. Andrew Brown has some from ExamPro, has got some good practice exams. Review and Prep has some good practice exams. Always recommend that, because AWS takes some extremely simple concepts and they word it really funny, and they make the wording very challenging. So get used to taking the exams first. Plus, we also want you to read the book that comes with the course that we're teaching, which goes way beyond the associate and almost into the professional.
All right. So I got two pieces to put up on the screen here. So from AQC, seen this name around a lot lately, so glad you're back. I have considered studying the MBA, but I heard that in MBA there are a lot of people who seem to have a lot of money or career opportunities, but in fact they are under a lot of pressure and are not happy. I'm curious about what this is and why and how to avoid it. Can I start off with this one?
Yeah, we can all answer this because we all have MBAs.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about I heard that in MBA there are a lot of people who seem to have a lot of money or career opportunities, but in fact they are under a lot of pressure and are not happy. So rumors are rumors. I hear that's like one of my least favorite things to ever hear is I hear. So take anything that you hear with a grain of salt. Now, so that's the second part, the I heard. So the third part, there are a lot of people who seem to have a lot of money, but so on and so forth. This all boils down to our favorite question of, what do you want to do?
Yep.
And why do we ask that? Because you need to be doing something that you're passionate about. And if you're not doing something that you're passionate about, then you're going to have a lot of money or career opportunities, and you are in fact under a lot of pressure and are not happy if you're doing something that you're not passionate about.
Yeah.
So that's, and I have a little bit more, I have a different understanding in this because I helped instruct some MBA lectures, and you know, I've been around people that have run MBA programs for decades. So I got a little bit different exposure than Mike and Alonso. As Mike mentioned, we all have MBAs. But you are correct. There are people that might have money and might have career opportunities, but they're not happy. But you find that everywhere. Mm-hmm. Look at, if you're currently employed at QC, look at your company. Guarantee you can find it there too. You find people that have got a lot of money and career opportunities, but they're not happy and they're under a lot of pressure. So don't compare yourself to others. Be passionate about what you're doing. If your desire to get the MBA is because it will help you reach your goal of whatever you're passionate about doing, then that approach, that mindset, that perspective should help you prevent that being under a lot of pressure and not being happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it all boils down to. So I'm curious about what that is and why and how to avoid it. What I just said. Evaluate and make sure that your reasons and your priorities and your purpose are appropriate. Because you've got a lot of people. Oh, I was about to get on a soapbox for a second about the racket of continuing education. But you have a lot of people that are going into MBAs because they don't know what they want to do. And they're being sold a bill of goods that say, hey, this will help you out if you go get an MBA. Go to graduate school, it'll help you figure it out. It'll buy you 2 more years. You can figure it out. So that's another reason why you see a lot of people that might not be happy. So find out what you want to do. Make sure if you're going to go to graduate school, if you're going to get an MBA, that it's in furtherance of reaching your goal and your passion. So I'd love to hear what Mike and Alonso had to say about this.
I'm going to resonate, and it's a bit. I'll refrain from turning this into an echo chamber. But the thing is that MBAs afford opportunities. Opportunities afford an open door for those to solve problems that those who may not have the business acumen to perform that. And I don't want to sound facetious, but people who are in the retail industry or in the fast food industry, they're not under pressure to solve business problems, which provides a means of getting the money. So the reason why they're under pressure is because there are business issues that they themselves do not know how to solve, and they are relying on you. You are the Superman. You can be the Superwoman. You are the superhero character that they need to get things done. And to do that, they're going to coax you with a lot of money and emphasis, to help you make that decision. Say, okay, you'll work for them. So when it comes to being happy, as it's right back again to the MBA when it affords you opportunities. You have the opportunities, you have the options to find your happiness. There's never going to be a Shangri-La, there's never going to be a perfect storm where you're going to be happy every day of the week of any job. There's going to be challenges, uphill battles. There's going to be maybe conflicts of character issues, or they may have been a failure somewhere down the line where you have to, quote unquote, stand tall before the man. Either way, it's all about you being a professional. It's all about you being able to handle what comes your way with a team that's willing to back you, and you're going to be their leader come rain or shine. So it's all about you finding your happiness, finding out what you want to do, and how you want to get it done using your skill set, using your credentials and everything else to light the way.
And I'm going to add a different flavor to this AQC. I used to practice medicine. We don't talk about it very often. And here's what. A lot of people are unhappy. In fact, the second most commonly prescribed drugs in the US are antidepressants. So the key is, if you don't do what you love, change it. I went to school and learned to practice internal medicine. Guess what? I work in tech because I like it more. But the MBA gives you options to go from tech to insurance to hotel and restaurant management to anything else because it's generic business and leadership skills. Now, Alonzo alluded to it, and I like to say it as well. If you don't want stress, join, get a job, get used to saying, would you like fries with that? Because the only jobs that I know where you can truly forget about it when you leave are restaurant industry. And I'm Greek, so I know a lot about restaurant industry because all my relatives had a restaurant, including my family.
Depends on what level you're at in the restaurant.
Yes, that's true. If you're in the leadership, you're going to be thinking about it ahead of time. But if you're just serving the food or just cooking the food, when you're done, you're done. But in all real jobs that pay anything, you're going to have some stress. And what happens is some people just don't want to put out the effort to do the job. And now they get a job that pays them a lot and they have expectations of them and they're miserable. So for them, get a lower paying job where they don't have as big expectations. You can still do that with an MBA. Or you can work for a charity. Or you can teach. Like Chris, I taught a little bit in an MBA program too. I just don't talk about it a little bit. They had some technology courses in the MBA program, and the professors are like, Mike, you work for Cisco. We don't do any of that. It's like, would you teach this? And I did. I loved it. That and information security. And the point is I loved it. But in my MBA, it was exciting and it was fun. It was woohoo. This is great for me. There were three other people that weren't there. They're like, Mike, what should I do? I said, something else. Do something else. Go to law school. Become a doctor. Do whatever you want, but don't do something you don't like. So I think an MBA is a great thing. It's a great generic education that offers you the opportunity to do almost anything you'd ever want to do in life. But what matters most is you're happy.
Exactly. And so to wrap it back up, Alonzo and Mike were talking about the fact that they're gonna pay you well to get that MBA, or because you've had that MBA.
Yep.
And they're gonna expect things from you because you've done that. Either you've done it on your own or they paid for it. So that's what, circling back to what Mike just closed out with, making sure that you're happy and that that your purpose and your reasoning for going through, because an MBA is not easy. So an MBA on its own is pressure. So yeah, you've got to make sure that your reasons are and your purpose for doing it are correct. You're passionate about whatever it is that you're ultimately going to be doing with it, and that you're happy. So, good question. Edmund, would you recommend aspiring solution architects to do cloud projects over certifications?
Okay, Edmund, I hate this because there's a lot of non-architects. There are people that went through architecture training programs and got fired before they made it to real architects telling people to do projects. And there's the certification providers who have never been architects telling people to do projects. Here's the thing. Architects don't touch the technology. We design the technology, we present the technology, and we sell the technology. So a real project is designing an architecture for a bank that's got a specific problem. A real architecture is designing an architecture for a healthcare organization that needs to adopt a new electronic health record. A real architecture would be, how do you change the way the financial advisors work at a bank? A real architecture would be, how do you take a business, a retail business, and make it more profitable? That's a real project. That's what we do as architects. So that I recommend doing, but don't go to Git. We don't touch Git. Don't configure a bunch of Linux boxes. That's not what we do. It's somebody else's job. And what happens is when you have too much engineering on your resume, guess what happens? You go on an interview and they bring you down the engineering path, which is not as an architect. I recommend that you get trained as an architect and do architecture things. So Edmund, I'm going to make this kind of clear. We architects actually come from the building world. That's where it started. And then IBM was probably the first, and then Cisco was the second company to really have architects. And what happened? A building architect designs a building. I want to build a big, beautiful hotel like the Burj Al Arab in Dubai. I call an architect. I tell them I want it to be this many meters tall. I want it to be on the water. I want 3 helipads, 2 golf courses, a stretch of beach, and they design the blueprint. And guess what happens? A construction crew goes and builds it. Now, here's the thing. The construction workers, the people that do all the projects and all the hands-on hammer and nails and things, nobody asked them to design a building. Why? Because using a hammer or nail or configuring things does not teach you how to design. So I recommend that you get cloud architect training. Learn how to design the way a building architect goes to school to be a building architect, and you'll easily get hired. And sure, there's some projects that you can do, like building your own cloud. All my students build their own cloud. You could take our course. You could buy a server for about $1,500 that'll do it. I don't really care how you do it, but I want you to do it. So the point is yes, I recommend that you do architecture things. Practice responding to RFIs, RFPs, and RFQs. Our students do. Practice writing architectural documents, and not just pictures, but documents. Practice explaining how the architecture will affect the business. That's what architects do. But don't go to Git, do any of that nonsense. Don't go to Linux. Don't code, write Python scripts, develop WordPress sites. That's somebody else's job. So it's kind of like if you wanted to be an airplane pilot and you worked on airplane engine that said, I did airplane engine work. It's not the same thing. And I've had this discussion with Trevor Spires as well. He's like, projects, we design. And that's the thing as well. And he worked at AWS. And I've had the same discussion with hundreds of architects. Now, there's some that I would want you to do. Get a big server and work with VMware, because that's what the real underlying technology that you're going to move to the cloud. Set up some real virtual machines. Set up some file servers, the hard stuff. And then you know how to build a plan to move it to the cloud. But I recommend you do architecture stuff. Certifications, again, will not ever get anybody a job, ever. But the certifications will help you get an interview. So I recommend you learn how to be an architect with architect training, and then get 2 certifications, one in the industry, like the Certified Solution Architect Professional, the Azure Solution Architect Expert. Do not get the Google Professional Cloud Architect, because it's got such small market share, and Google's still losing money on the cloud. Who knows if they'll even have a cloud a couple of years from now. Make it AWS or Azure to just show that you've got something that's got some market share. And then from there, focus on learning how to be a great architect, and you'll do great.
All right, let's see. Dorian says, how do I improve business acumen?
Well, there's 2 ways you could do it. If you take our architecture program, you're going to get a good enough amount for you to be really successful in your career. If you take our How to Make More Money in Tech program, you're going to get a lot of business acumen training. We have even business school professors teaching it. Or you can get an MBA. What I did, and how we created the How to Make More Money in Tech, is I did have an MBA. Chris has an MBA. Alonzo has an MBA. We also reached out to other business leaders. And after my MBA, I have about $100,000 of business acumen, leadership, and executive training. Plus, I had an executive coach for a long time. Still do. And that's what it took. 3 leaders like this, business school professionals and industry experts, VPs. We have a VP at one of the biggest tech companies, part of our business acumen training. So either get an MBA or take one of our training programs. We focus heavily on business acumen. And we give you enough to be a great architect in the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. In our Ultimate Architect Program, or the How to Make More Money in Tech program, we go to extremes in business acumen. You'll be dealing with macroeconomics and calculating ROI models and building business cases. We get to nitty-gritty so that you can stand out way above any architects that are there. Or you can get an MBA.
All right. Okay. Alonzo, I'm going to let you read this next one. Just because my throat's getting a little dry.
Okay, this is from Mohammed. Hi, I am .NET full stack developer, having 6 years of experience, and I'm confused either to choose cloud architect role or DevOps role. Please guide me as to which path is best for me as a developer. Okay, Mohammed. First things first, if you do not want to be a developer anymore, then you no longer need to consider yourself as a developer, and you need to stop branding yourself as such, requiring any need for full stack development, Linux, Python, or anything else that requires you interaction with the command line. Okay. DevOps, that's a whole different story. That's continuous integration, continuous development. So that has nothing to do with being a cloud architect. So for us to understand what your passion is, what your goals are, and how to help you get there, you have to make a determination as to where you want to be. What do you want to do? Understand that what you know right now, probably the majority of it will not be the forefront on your resume or on your LinkedIn, because we're going to have to rebrand you as a cloud architect, meaning that it is a hybrid position of both business and tech. However, the technology portion of that does not include you interacting in any way with the command line. No sudo yum, no Terraform, none of it. Okay, because we're focusing on using tech as a business transformative medium to improve companies and how they perform in their industry. So understand that requires business acumen. It requires soft skills, emotional intelligence, because you're going to be interacting with business leaders instead of the computer. You're going to understand the tech and what it is, how it works, and when you would use it, but you have to use it in a way that it makes sense and being able to communicate its benefits to those leaders who, quite frankly, don't care about the tech and they don't want to spend the money on the tech, but they understand that it is a mandatory effort so that their business can evolve. So it goes right back to you, Mohammed, to understand, do you want to be a cloud architect? Do you want to be DevOps, or do you want to remain a developer?
And I'm going to pick it up for a second, Mohammed. I hate when people ask this question. It's not what you ate for dinner yesterday that determines what you eat for dinner today. What do you want to do? What's going to make you happy? I used to practice medicine. I went to school for 7 years. 6 months later, I was a lead architect. Why? Because I wanted to be. So that's the point. What do you want to do? If you're not happy as a developer, don't go into DevOps. I'm going to tell you right now, because you're still going to be doing development and operations. If you love being a developer, then DevOps might be a great job. Now, keep it in mind that architecture will easily pay you double what a DevOps engineer is. But you can't take a job that's not going to make you happy. So what do you want to do? But your past has no bearing on your future. What you're bearing on your future is the decisions you make today and the training you get for tomorrow. That's your future, not what you used to do. I mean, otherwise, if you grew up without anything, I grew up pretty darn poor. You'd have to be poor your whole life, because that assumes that education and free will doesn't exist. What do you want to do? Do what you want to do and you will be great, but don't rely on your past. Your past does not determine your future. I know people that were overweight. They used to eat a lot of cookies and donuts and ice cream, and they went to a good trainer, went on a good nutrition plan, and the next thing you realize, they're fit. So it's the same thing. What do you want to do? That's what I think you should do. Tell us what you like. You want to meet with customers, talk to people, design things, give presentations, then you want to be an architect. You want to get on that command line and play with Git and Jenkins and Spinnaker and all those other hands-on techie things. You probably like being a DevOps engineer, but what do you enjoy? That's the key, not what you used to do.
All right. So James T says, would you recommend CEH over CISSP for individuals with no tech background but who want to become a security architect?
Absolutely not. The CEH, especially the CEH Master, it's a how to hack. The CISSP is an architecture certification. How do you design something to protect a business? Look, you're not going to learn much in the CISSP about security. I'm going to tell you that right now, but it's on the CIO Magazine's top 10 list of certifications, and it's what the CIOs want. And if the CIOs want it, it's what your hiring managers want. So get the CISSP. I did it. Most architects that work in security do it at some point. If you don't have the requisite 5 years experience, do it anyway. And they'll call you an architect associate, a CISSP associate until the time passes. But if I had to pick only two, it'd be the CH Master, not the CH or the CISSP. But I strongly, strongly, strongly prefer the CISSP over that. And I did one too.
Is the job market for solution architect fairly competitive or very competitive?
Andre, it's not competitive at all. Every day people are like, Mike, I need to hire 500 of them. Can you find me some? There's no competition. There's incompetency. There's a gazillion people that have passed an AWS certification. Why? Because they're teaching the test and all the certification courses. You can buy a copy of the exam, and you can pay somebody to take the exam for you, and I can point you through any direction.
And
So
you can take a retake for free.
And you can take a retake for free. So an AWS certification is going to get you an interview, maybe. And that's what we teach you for the interview, but it's never going to get you hired at all. Now, if you have real architect knowledge, you can get hired in an instant. There's no competition out there because you could barely find anybody. Here's what it's like interviewing an architect. Tell me how to load share across two equal host direct connections. Load balancer, right? No, because they don't know networking and they don't know BGP. How would you architect this? What do you mean? Here's how you configure an S3 bucket. Architects don't configure. Here's how you architect it. They don't know. A bank has a low latency application. How would you deal with low latency? And they need to know that in the cloud, you can't do low latency because block storage is slow despite what they teach you in your certification. So the key is finding a competent architect is like finding a needle in the haystack. And there is so much demand and so many positions open, it's not competitive at all. And that's why the salary keeps going up. Right now, it's $200,000 for the average. And that's really the techie architects that earn low like that. The people that know business and leadership earn much more. But that's what we're dealing with, an average salary of $200,000 because there's a huge demand and there's no supply. So it's like anything else. Look at the supply and demand curve. The greater the need and the lower the supply, the higher the pay will be. That's why Cisco Certified Internet Experts, which is an exam I did back when nobody knew networking, were getting paid $110 an hour back in 1999. Why? Because there were only like 5,000 of us in the entire world. And Cisco would give people a discount on their service contract if you could find somebody. And while everybody else was focusing on getting 10 certifications, the CCIE was over 75,000 pages of reading. So those of us that did it could write our own ticket. The point is, it's not competitive at all. There's a million people that want to be architects, but they're not architects. That's the problem. But getting an architect job is nothing if you've got the right skills. There's so much demand and no competition out there at all.
All right. Let's see. James T. asked, is there any professional certification you'd recommend if I wanted to become an enterprise architect?
No.
No.
Real jobs, big jobs are not built upon certification. They're built about knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, there's this TOGAF certification, which basically what I did as an enterprise architect, and I was an enterprise architect for a long time. It talked about these theory and fluffs and these little boxes and these architectural frameworks. And here's what happens when you present it to the customer. Watch, I'm going to present it to Alonzo. Hey, Alonzo, I got this architectural framework, and we've got this service over here and this service over here. And we got our security service here, and we got this module over here for IAM. We also got this module for compute. Hey, Alonzo, you want to buy this?
No, thank you.
And literally what I did, James T., throughout my architecture career was take those silly TOGAF designs and translated them into something that the customers would understand. Because what happened is they would kick them out of the room, the executives, and say, this is not what I need. I need a business person that knows something. So no, James T., if you want to get an enterprise architect job, get an MBA. Do not get a certification. I don't know how to describe this in a way that really matters, but anybody can get a certification. Anybody. I can get you AWS certified in less than a week if you desire. Anybody. I can have you pass the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional in less than 10 days. I can send you to the exact perfect place where you can buy the exam, where you can also, and all you have to do is memorize the questions and answers. And a week later, you'll be a Certified Solution Architect Professional. It's nothing. But the point is nobody's going to pay you for doing something that you can cheat on. They want knowledge. You know, a doctor doesn't get a certification. They get a board certification, but it's a totally different story. But they're not going to rack up certifications in their office and say, see, I'm good. They're going to do the job. They're going to learn, and they're going to be great. So focus on an MBA if you want to be an enterprise architect.
Yeah, I want to chime in here because the enterprise architect and the architect, period, is a business job that requires the ability to do so many things that aren't quantifiable on a piece of paper.
Right.
That's the problem with getting certified, hashtag AWS certified, or going to a certification boot camp or certification training provider. There's no way we can teach all day long about what's necessary to do the job. But at the end of the day, certification is just a thing, it's an exam that can be memorized and passed. So the people that are hiring enterprise architects and business architects and cloud architects, they know that even if there was a certification that said, I know how to do business and cloud architecture certification, like even if that, like just point blank said that, the people that are hiring would look at it and be like, they might be able to do it. Maybe. I don't know. It's just a certification. I guess I should have my number 2 executive assistant give them a call and ask them a few questions. That's how far that might get you.
Yeah.
Like, because these roles are not they're not, and there's a lot to go. There's a long rabbit hole I can go on about that, but it's hard to get that across that these are skills that can't be determined by a piece of paper, or a window in a box on your browser on Pearson View. I mean, it's just that's not how these work. And that's why we keep saying a training like ours or an MBA, because at the end of the day, the MBA is literally just a piece of paper. But the people that are doing the hiring know what was necessary to get that MBA.
Because they did it themselves.
Exactly. And then with training like ours, you're able to, when you get the opportunity, you have the ability to prove the capability to do the job because you've actually done it. So certifications can't provide any of that.
No. What Chris is talking about, these are a lot of amorphous skills, James T.
Yes, I was trying to figure out a singular word, and even that word is not.
These are all finesse and business skills. So, for example, James T., I took golf lessons to be an enterprise architect. I had to read books on how to be a gentleman. I read books and had classes on which fork to use at a restaurant at which time. I'm not joking. How and when to salt and pepper your food. How to leave a little bit of food left on the plate. How to dress, which buttons to use, how often to shine your shoes.
The best time to ask a certain question.
Yeah,
what time of the day, what time of the week, what happened when and where and with whom. Should I ask it now or should I wait until a certain time? When to send that email, when not to send that email, when to pick up the phone and when to settle with an email. All of these things that just can't be.
Yeah.
We could keep going and going and going. There's just so many things.
Essentially, we're diplomats.
Yes.
Yes.
We're diplomats. We're translators. How do we go from these engineers that are these super smart people that spit out acronyms that nobody understands to business people that are talking about EBITDA? We got to translate the two to come up with a technology solution. That's the thing. So no, there's no certification that teaches any big job. That's why you don't get a certification for anything real. Certifications are good for entry-level positions like help desk, cloud admin, network admin. But once you get beyond that, you need something bigger. So, watch the video of Wallace. He took our course. He had no tech background, and he's now working as an enterprise architect. You see how the finesse that he has. That's going to make it clear.
What is a realistic entry-level salary for someone with no tech experience? For a solution for an architect with no tech experience.
We're seeing about 150 to 175,000 as a basic architect. We're seeing people that have an engineering background, not that it teaches them anything about architecture, coming in around 250 to 287. But about 150 to 170 is pretty much a basic architect job, assuming you know how to interview well, you got some business and leadership skills.
Yeah, if all you've got is the competency, you're going to be on the low end of that you've got the competency and the je ne sais quoi, and you do well in the interviews and your communication, you're going to be on the high end of that.
Yeah.
So,
and there's good data to prove it. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you were finished.
We move on.
So like 30,000, the average person that's got higher levels of emotional intelligence earns $29,600 more than others. And for every 1% increase in emotional intelligence, an additional $1,400 per year. Why do you think we teach so much emotional intelligence? Plus, it also helps somebody get hired. How good is your interview? I showed you jobs, and all these jobs have upwards of a $200,000 pay differential between the top and the bottom. How much interview training are you doing? Well, others are focused on certifications, which do nothing for you. Interview training can do a lot for you. So it all focuses on those things for architects. Now, we're not engineers. Engineers are more about being technical. Architects are more about being an executive and smooth talking and being able to lead a bunch of people.
All right. So cloud practitioner versus solution architect.
Zone, please, my team will pop the video of why you should never waste your time on the cloud practitioner ever.
I think they're asking about a job.
No, there's certification. There's no such thing.
No, I know. That's why I said. I think they're asking about a job because they said solution architect, not solution architect, associate, or professional.
Gamer Zone, I think you're in Pakistan. Again, certifications, they don't mean much, if anything. And someone who actually pursued and secured the cloud practitioner years ago, it has zero value. This is only specifically for someone who is already pre-existing as a AWS sales entity who wants to somehow increase their valuation of showcasing their AWS product array and how they're able to communicate it. Outside of that, it has little to no value. That's why it's easy to pass. There's just no value. There's no loss for you, no opportunity cost for you to put that on your resume.
And the reason I'm thinking that there's the chance they might be asking about that is because I've also seen people ask about the job cloud practitioner. So that's why I wanted to take the opportunity. Mike, you're muted, I guess. You muted yourself somehow.
There's no job as a cloud practitioner.
Right, I know. That's why I wanted to address that in case they were asking about that. There's no job as a cloud practitioner, and the job as a solution architect is a badly named job. But as a certification, definitely exactly what Alonso and Mike were saying. There's no reason for a cloud architect to go for a practitioner certification unless you have access to it for free in a developing country, and you can parlay that into a 50% off for the next one, and 50% off for the next one. But
and Chris mentioned the expectation. If you live in Africa, for example, and AWS is doing a free cloud practitioner certification, normally we would say, don't do it, because the 2 or 3 months that it'll take you to do the certification are about $48,000 of lost salary for the average person. But if you can't afford the $150 for the exam, because you have a low salary, you can do the cloud practitioner as your first certification, and you get 50% off your next. So you can do the cloud practitioner as the same as the associate and shoot right over to the professional and skip the associate. The cloud practitioner and solution architect associate are basically the same certification. So spend an extra week over the cloud practitioner to do the solution architect, and don't waste any time on the cloud practitioner ever.
We briefly mentioned this when we were answering another question. Is there an argument for an individual to get a Google professional cert as their first cloud cert when AWS has more market share? So since you previously addressed this, the answer was no. But I know we're going to go into more in depth, but I'm going to dissect this because I'm a dissecting kind of guy. As their first cloud cert, we're going to take that word first out because that implies that you're going to get multiple other cloud certifications. So you should not get multiple cloud certifications. So that's why I wanted to point that one out. You should just get one cloud certification if you want to become an architect. There should not be a first or a second or a third, unless your first happens to be the associate and then the second is the professional. That's reasonable, but only unless the professional once you get that. But but yeah, no reason to go with the first one as a Google professional certification and then an AWS or an Azure one as a second or a third one. Just get one. I'll let Mike or Alonso talk about that. I just saw that first, and I wanted to stop that first, second, third.
James T, here's the point of a certification. It shows a company that you may know something about a vendor's technology. Nobody uses Google's cloud. 9 out of 10 businesses don't use it. And when they go multi-cloud, they go Azure and AWS, or they're using Oracle. And Oracle is in a big position to succeed in healthcare with their $34 billion purchase of Cerner, which basically runs the VA and is an incredible healthcare organization. So I wouldn't spend any time on Google at all. I don't think, and Google Cloud is even losing money, and it's never made money yet. So don't put your eggs in the least likely to succeed basket.
As a cloud security architect is okay. I'm going to make some wild assumptions on these abbreviations.
It's like compliance.
Yeah, governance, risk, and compliance, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
PCI, if I remember correctly, is that credit cards?
Yep, payment credit card industry.
And DSS, data, I don't know. Something that the architect would need to know. First of all, I'm going to point out, as architects, we try not to use the abbreviations like this because they make me make wild assumptions.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty safe on the first two: governance, risk, and compliance, and PCI for credit cards. I don't know about the third one.
Yeah, I don't think Purnell really understands what a cloud security architect is. And that's why he's asking these questions.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I get it.
Purnell, here's what the cloud security architect does. They secure the entire business. That means the security policy for the business. That means employee training, how to protect against anti-phishing, anti-malware, anti-social engineering campaigns. They design the demilitarized zones, for example. They design the security platform to secure the endpoints. They design the security vulnerability management assessments that are going to be done. They determine how they're going to lock down all the operating systems of the things. They're looking at their firewalls, their intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, their encryption strategy, their WAN encryption strategy versus their storage encryption strategy, and so much more. All these little compliance standards are just something that we read as a checkoff list and make sure we're doing them. And you're not going to remember this. You're not going to remember HIPAA. You're not going to remember this. You're going to design your architecture, and then you're going to check it as a standard. Look, architects don't configure anything. And when someone would say, how would you do it? Here's how. If you know what you're doing, it's nothing. I can go to AWS's webpage and, literally speaking, download the instructions. It'll tell me how to do anything. And if I've never done it before, if I know what I'm doing. In fact, what if I told you 16% of all hacking events occurred from people misconfiguring S3 buckets? And it's not that they don't know how to configure it. They don't know what and why they're configuring, so they do the wrong stuff. So that's a small percentage of it. Quantifying the security risk is a big thing a security architect does, which goes back to business acumen. How many customers do you have, for example? And what's the risk? What's it going to cost if there's a security breach to the business? You have to determine that before you know how much the company is going to be willing to spend to protect it. You've got to be building a business case. You don't have time to focus on these little mini things. It's something that's part of your checklist that your team will help you with. You got to know how to design, present, and sell, which is a lot better. I mean, that's why, like, it's this silly nonsense where people think, I'm going to be an engineer for 10 years and know something about architecture. Why do you think we have people with 20 years engineering experience that we have to train to be architects? It doesn't help you to be a flight attendant to know how to fly an airplane. It's somebody else's job. So whichever one of these architecture positions, there's going to be a lot to learn. But these little standards, they're compliance standards. Lawyers are going to be doing as much of that as we ever would. But I'm going to make it clear. We don't touch the technology. No architect codes. No architect configures. In fact, Purnell, if you go to AWS, Azure, Google, Microsoft, Deloitte, Accenture, you're not even allowed to touch the technology. There's a couple of reasons for that. We design it and some other team builds it and another team troubleshoots it, but it's more than that. Are you going to pay a $500,000 engineer, architect to code? Or are you going to hire a coder in India and pay him $15 an hour to do the software? And that's really what actually happens. For the most part, the programming is done outside the US. And now those software engineers and other engineers are going to be losing their jobs because of ChatGPT and other things. So architect, engineer, they're not related. So kind of keep it out into the design systems, and Purnell, you're going to have a great career.
Here's a fun one. Without having solid hands-on cloud experience, how can you straight become an architect?
Okay, well, how would you become a pilot? You would go to flight school. How do you become a doctor? You go to medical school. How do you go to law school? You become a lawyer. Now, here's hands-on cloud experience. I code. Now you're going to meet the CEO, and the CEO is going to say, we need to increase our revenue by 6%. What can you do for me, cloud architect? And you're going to say, but I can code Java. And he's going to laugh, the CEO, or he or she is going to laugh you out of the room and say, I don't want a developer, I want an architect. I really want you to think about this. If you worked as a construction worker for 10 years, when somebody asked you to design a condominium that's 100 stories tall, of course they wouldn't. It's somebody else's job and it's meaningless experience. If I teach you to use a hammer, do you think you're going to know how to design a hotel? Of course not. If I teach you how to fix airplane engines, that's engineering. Would you know how to fly an airplane? Of course not. If you're a flight attendant keeping people safe from the drinks, will it make you a pilot? Of course not. It's insanity to think that having tech experience is going to teach you design. And I know why you're getting it, because a lot of people were looking for it, but I'm going to make it clear to you. They want 5 years experience for help desk. Nobody cares. They wanted 15 years experience for my first networking job, and I had 0. And I've got students like Wallace getting enterprise architect jobs that typically take 20 years, and he never worked in tech before in his life. Or Daniel Bosa, who didn't even graduate high school, who got a job at JP Morgan Chase. Or Jennifer Email, who also got a job at JP Morgan Chase. She was a mental health tech. Or Coyote, who was working for AWS. He was a college student. Or Yvonne Tamba, who was working as a waiter before AWS hired him after our training. Or Balwinder, the stay-at-home mom. Why? Because she was trained to be an architect. All that you're talking about is getting training. Enterprise architects don't code. Solutions architects don't code. Here's the thing. In fact, recently we had a nice discussion with an architect at Microsoft. And he said, here's the one thing in common about architects. We never are allowed to touch the technology. And we laughed hysterically because we get asked every day, should I learn DevOps? Should I learn SysOps? Should I learn coding? It's not the architect's job. Design, present, and sell. No touching of the technology. And how would configuring or coding teach you how to design an end-to-end system with 20,000 remote locations? It wouldn't. How would configuring an object storage bucket teach you how to design an organization that's got 20 petabytes of storage? It wouldn't. You have to learn how to be an architect to get an architect job. And engineering is no preparation for it. That's why we had people like Pritpal, who was really smart with 20 years experience, and we trained him to be an architect. He became an enterprise architect because our engineering teaches nothing with architecture. I was an engineer before I was an architect, and here's what I had to do. Pretend I didn't know anything about engineering to be good at my job. And when people ask me an engineering question, I don't know, let me get you an engineer. It is a different job. Train for the job you want. Learn somebody else's job, and you're going to be bad at it. What do you call it? Simone Biles, the gymnast, runs. How far does she run? To the vault. Usain Bolt runs 100 meters, and he's darn fast at it. It's incredible to watch. And a marathoner runs. A marathoner can't run competitively with Usain Bolt. It'd be hilarious. Usain Bolt runs at 30 miles an hour, a marathoner runs at 10. But Usain Bolt couldn't run for 26 miles. It's a different job, it's a different career, it requires different training. One people's training does not make you better at somebody else's job. That's why nurses don't work as doctors. You're a pharmacist.
Okay, so there's some follow-ups to this from Digital Savvy. What advice do you have for job seekers in this market?
I asked a follow-up question.
Solution architects often seem to not get traction unless they have hands-on skills credibility. What is needed to break out from the crowd without relevant recent experience? I feel like I need to gain confidence with dev associate.
Oh God, this is bad.
SA associate before going in for experience and pro, then keep it a pro. What are your thoughts on this plan? Can I start off? Can
you start off? You can describe Arun, who we had to remove this stuff from his resume.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start off with what you just listed out. List out what seems like several years worth of time, which would convey to almost $500,000 in lost income, and developing skills that are completely irrelevant to the job that you want to do. So if you want to become a solution architect, cloud architect, train to become a solution architect or a cloud architect. There are no developer skills required to be a solution architect. There are no engineer skills related to becoming a solution architect. So if you want to be a cloud architect, solution architect, cloud architect, train to do that. Don't train for another job.
No.
He just talked about this, so we're just going to piggyback on that conversation that we just had about training for the job that you want. If you want to become a cloud architect, train to become a cloud architect. You may not get it in 3 weeks. You may not get it in 3 months. You may not get it in 6 months. It may take 8 months, maybe 7 months. But the quicker you can reach your goal of becoming a cloud architect, the less missed income opportunity that you have. The quicker your bank account starts to grow. The quicker you're able to secure your family financially. The route that you've explained, I don't know where this is based off of.
I do.
But I'm guessing it's based off of inaccurate information out there from other training providers that are trying to train architects and DevOps engineers in the same training program. That is literally like trying to train an airplane mechanic and an airplane pilot in the same room with the same lesson. It's not going to happen. That's like trying to train a lawyer and a doctor in the same classroom. If we're talking about tort reform, that might work for those two. But other than that, you're not going to train a lawyer and a doctor in the same classroom.
No.
You're not going to train a DevOps. You're not going to train a solution architect in the same room. Mike mentioned Arun. Arun is a brilliant individual who had an amazing resume, amazing background, an ITT graduate, extensive career, but he was techie. In the interview, he wasn't techie until he got put in a techie box. And he got put in a techie box in the interview because his resume was techie. And his resume was techie because he thought that he had to have all this techie stuff in there. Exactly. As soon as we remove all this techie stuff off and we reframe the same information from a business perspective and not a technical perspective, guess what? Lo and behold, he starts getting offers. And he's been working as a cloud architect for almost 2 years now. And he's still getting offers. And he's happily employed.
And Digital Debbie, I'm going to pick it up from there because Chris really explained.
All right, this is just a scary road. And our whole goal is to put you on the right path.
And the reason we're so passionate about this, Digital Debbie, is we had Arun, and he had a DevOps and a developer and a SysUp certification. And when he kept going on interviews, and he's like, nobody's taking me seriously, I said, let me see your resume. So he's an IIT graduate, probably the best technical engineering school in the entire world. And he says to me, and he says, sure, Mike, I want to get hired. And I took an entire class and I removed every one of those certifications off of his resume and did exactly what Chris did. Within 2 weeks, he had multiple job offers. The point is, if you want an architect, you want an architect. If you wanted a cheeseburger, you're not going to be happy with chicken because it's a different thing. When you paint yourself as somebody else, and Chris mentioned the financial thing, but let's talk about how you become elite. How do you become the best? Usain Bolt runs fast. He does not do marathon running. Why? If he did, it would break down his fast twitch muscle fibers that enable him to sprint and make him slow. It's the same reason gymnasts don't ride a bike, because they train in their career. They master their skills. And every minute you're learning somebody else's, guess what you're not doing? Learning yours, which means your competition's getting better and better and better, and you're busy making yourself more mediocre by learning other people's jobs. It's not an advantage to be a doctor, lawyer, pharmacist, nurse, flight attendant, dog walker, and airplane pilot. It's an advantage to be the world's greatest doctor or the world's greatest lawyer or the world's greatest cloud architect. Focus on being the best. You'll earn 2 to 3 times more in your career, and you're not going to be sidelined going on interviews. And what's going to happen if you do all these silly certifications, and I know where you're getting it, there's 2 certification providers that are so bad. They basically have these bundles. They try to sell you into learning 6 people's jobs at the same time. It's why we do free certification training in the first place. It's why we're here, because it's the worst thing you can do for your career. So please figure out what job you want. You want to be a developer? Get a developer associate. But seriously, there's nothing to the professional exam. Study for it. Don't waste your time learning other people's jobs. It's not going to give you confidence, and it's going to keep you from learning the things you need to pass the things that you want.
All right, Mike, here's your favorite question. I'll start the timer. I'll give you a little extra time since you've been gone.
Can someone with no tech...
I'll let you read it.
Can someone with no tech experience go straight into being a CSA? Of course they can. I'll go through a few. I'm going to start. I mentioned Daniel Bosu, who didn't graduate high school. I mentioned Balwinder, who was a stay-at-home mom. I mentioned Ivan Tamba, who was a waiter. I mentioned Coyote, but I didn't mention, let's say, Noah Parker, who was a social worker, and Victor, who was a college student, Delroy, who worked on ambulances as an EMT, Wallace, who became an enterprise architect with no tech background, Jermaine, I love this guy, who was a Jamaican guy who's now working he was working with landscaping, who's now an enterprise architect. Boy, he was a fun guy through my program. Restless, I could give you example after example and go on for an hour, but Chris would beep a buzzer because he's protecting my voice because my voice gets timed out. But the point is, of course you can. Now, you can't do it with certification, but you can do it with training. The same way, and you've got lots of testimonials you can see, but that's part of the reason we were in well over 100 magazines. We received the #1 School of Online Cloud Computing from Stellar Business Magazine. You can see us in Information Week, CIO Magazine, Forbes, and you name it, we're in it. We're well over 100 magazines because we get people these jobs because we train them for them. Everybody else is teaching engineering, and they hope if you've got engineering, maybe you need 20 years experience, and we're going to hope that in 20 years you might learn something. Guess what? You're going to learn somebody else's job and be great at somebody else's job. But no matter how good of you are as a flight attendant, Restless, do you think anybody's going to ask you to fly the plane? No. You got to get trained for the job you want.
Does a solution architect need DevOps skills?
No. We are not allowed to touch the technology in our jobs ever. You don't code, you don't configure, you don't maintain, you don't do DevOps. They're other people's careers.
Digital Divi asked this question. Have you all met solution architects that also are a great developer and do both well?
No, you can't do both well. You can't fly an airplane and keep people the same. If you divide your focus, you become equally bad at everything. Digital Divi, you clearly don't understand the architect role. We don't touch the technology. We go to a company, we ask them about their business goals, their business pain points, and business challenges, and we build a plan, which means if you know coding and half of your brain is taken up on coding, here's what it's not taken up on. System design skills, networking skills, data center skills, the applications that can improve business performance, how to secure the enterprise, how to help the enterprise make more money, decrease their operating costs, do return on investment models for the customer. No, you can be a great developer or you can be an architect. Try to do both and you'll be horrible at both. And I mean this in a nice way. Many people assume the architect is a techie. They assume it's like a hands-on tech, but it's not. I mean, that the key is we're thrilled that you're here so we can give you this information, but people don't understand the architect job. And I want you to come to our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar, and we'll tell you, architects are not allowed to touch the technology. We're just not. We are allowed to design it, present it, and sell it. And I want the best for you, so please come to that webinar. I didn't want it to come across strong, but I really get upset when people are thinking if they can do both, but you can't be a doctor and a lawyer because you divide your focus. Imagine an Olympian, or like a boxer like Mike Tyson, or Conor McGregor from mixed martial arts, spending 50% of their training time on somebody else's career. They wouldn't be the best. I want you to be the best.
All right. All right. So I want to see if you've got any more questions, ask us here in the chat box. We're going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes. So make sure to get those questions in. I do want to point out, I'm going to re-up this banner up here about the boot camp tomorrow. So if Eddie, if you could put that link there in the chat box about the boot camp, and then also about the webinar that we're going to have on Thursday. Make sure to register for that. And Eddie, if you could put the link to that in the chat box. Also, we got the boot camp and the webinar this week, so make sure to take advantage of those. So let's get these last few questions in. We've got Sabine. How soon will it take on average a tech person to land a job? Do you have job placement support? So I'm going to assume we're talking about someone in an architect program that desires to be an architect. I think that's a safe assumption for us to give an answer. So, Mike?
It depends. A lot of it depends on you. I would say average for somebody without a tech background is 8 to 12 months. People that have a tech background are about 6 to 12 months. And because there is some advantage to knowing some of the tech, but typically when you get a tech person, they have to forget the tech and start learning the business. When we get a person with a business background, it's there. So if you had a sales background, I'd say, wow, you'd be getting through sooner.
Yeah.
So sales backgrounds, customer service backgrounds, any kind of customer facing roles like nurses or doctors get through fastest because the job is basically talk to someone, ask them about information, and then build a plan for them, like a lawyer. And we've worked with lawyers as well. They get through quickly. But I'd say 8 to 12 months is fair. I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver. That's about what it takes. Our students are actively recruited heavily. My average student tells me they get 5 to 15 interview requests each week, and they don't even have to look for it. Now, why is that? Well, it's near impossible to find an actual architect. Everybody else is out there and they're learning sysops and DevOps and coding, which they don't want in an architect. And we've got a major reputation for turning out the world's greatest architects. We had a director from AWS come to our class one day and talked about why he personally liked our program so much. We had a VP at a cloud company from their HR department talk about why they wanted to hire so many of our students. And our students are just aggressively recruited because we do so much work. We're featured in magazines almost every day for what we've done for the cloud community, and because our students are known to be great. But I'd say 8 to 12 months on average.
All right, so let's see. So the job examples that we gave applicable to non-US countries, like especially South Africa. Seems here in South Africa they want SA to be techie as well. I'm gonna piggyback this. I want to pick this one up. So it seems like that because of everything that you're seeing, and everyone that does the initial points of contact for hiring, every job description, and every person that does the initial point of contact for hiring has no idea what the job is.
Right.
The job description has no idea what the job is because the job description is worthless. That same vice president of hiring that Mike said came to our class and told our class that they had a bad copy and paste job on their job description. I've had another hiring manager that's told me that they've got contradictory job descriptions, meaning their job descriptions contradict themselves. I've seen job descriptions that have listed 10 years of Kubernetes experience in 2020, which is 6 years after Kubernetes was released in 2014. So I don't know how a job description expects you to have 10 years of Kubernetes experience. My wife has a job description for a front desk agent that requires previous experience as a front desk agent. Guess what? I know for a fact she hires people that doesn't have previous experience as a front desk agent. It's the job descriptions that just forget them. Just forget them. The first points of contact about jobs, forget them, because they're most likely going off of that job description because they don't know what the actual job is. So while it may seem like they want techie, They absolutely don't want techie.
Mm.
Now, if you do find somebody that actually wants techie, then run away.
Yeah.
Or get them to put it in proper context and say, okay, this is actually an engineer job. So, or, actually this is a technical architect role that's more of an engineer type role. Or, this is more of a sales engineer role. And if you can get them to put it in that proper context, because it might be a situation where you got a company that doesn't have this box in their system that says cloud architect role. Me and Mike, and I'm sure Alonzo, we've been listed as other things than what we're actually doing, so that we get paid what we're actually worth. So, so it might be a case of they're listing it as a cloud architect because that's the salary that they want to offer, but the role might actually be a techie role, but they're wanting to pay somebody more, if that makes sense. So there's lots of things. So if you're basing that seems like off of the actual job description or the first person that you've talked to about the role, then it's most likely just bad information.
Yes. And I'll give you a little more about South Africa. There's a company that I used to work for that's headquartered in South Africa that is a huge tech company that hires real architects. They used to be called Dimension Data. Now they're called NTT Data. Huge organization in South Africa. And they know the difference between an architect and an engineer. I worked there as an architect many years ago. And when I first joined them, it was when the days were amorphous between an architect and an engineer. And they said, you're too valuable to be an engineer, so you're going to be an architect. But they also had real architect roles too. And that's why they did it. But now they have real architecture roles there. Amazon has real architecture roles. We even have an employee in South Africa. He's part of our team on this call right now.
Yep. All right. Well, last comment is more just a comment. James T says, hi, Mike. Thank you for your passion and dedication to not only students, but the entire community. James T, he's back now, but he was previously enrolled in our course, but wasn't active because of life circumstances. But now I'm back. However, I used your videos to stay motivated, and your passion and enthusiasm are unmatched. Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Yep. Thank you very much. Glad you are back. Make sure to ask that question that I told you to ask in the Slack community. That's a good question. I just want to make sure it gets asked in Slack so that you can get some feedback. But this is a question that what James is talking about here is one of the reasons why Mike's answer about how long it takes seems like it's such a wide window, because 6 to 12 months is a wide window. But that's because we've got people like James, and we've got the grace and the flexibility for James to be able to do, has a life circumstance. We've got a student who disappeared. I didn't know what happened. Disappeared. Would randomly pop in every once in a while just and give some words of encouragement to people. And then last month he's like, all right, I'm back. It's been 8 months. I had a newborn and a full-time job, so I was a little overwhelmed. I was like, well, that explains where you went for 8 months. You had a newborn. So he was able, our students, they're not boxed into 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 24 weeks in our program. We're there until you get hired. Glad you're back, James. So this will be the last question we've got from Black Rose. Looks like Black Rose just popped in. So this will be the last question we've got. Is it advisable for someone without any IT background to do a CISA cert before tackling a CISSP cert?
No. If you want to get a CISSP, go get a CISSP. And I know there's a contingent of people that will teach you to advise you to stack up a bunch of entry-level certifications before you get to the one you want. But let's say you wanted to be a cloud security architect with an average salary of $800 a day or $16,000 a month. If you waste 4 months doing an entry-level certification, which isn't going to do anything for you, you just lost $64,000. So no, go straight for the thing you want. You want to go to Florida? Go to the airport. Get on a plane. It's the most direct path. Don't, try to drive to Canada, drive across Canada, and then across the country. Just go the fastest and direct way. Time is money. Mm-hmm. And it's more than that. Each one of these certifications is so theoretical and basic and fluffy in nature that they all have their own lies in it. and their own words. And one certification is going to teach you one way, and then you're going to have to relearn it a different way, and the other people are going to believe it's wrong. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So just go straight for your goal. Don't stop until you get your goal, and really, really work hard to get to your goal. I want the best for you, Black Rose. Knock out the CISSP. I had a student of mine who knocked it out in 2 weeks inside of our training because she said our training was almost like it. And she never worked in tech. She worked in a supermarket. I personally did it in 5 days because I took a expensive $5,000 boot camp many years ago. You'll be able to do it. And here's the key. If you don't have the requisite 5 years experience, here's what you do. Take the test anyway. You will pass the exam and you'll be what's called the CISSP associate. And once you have your 5 years experience, you'll be considered a full CISSP. I have students doing it all the time. I took it when I had 6 months security background. So that's how you get around the 5 years.
And it's not getting around it. It's what
Yeah.
they offer. They specifically offer that. So anyway, good response there, Mike. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I've had a great time. Glad to have you back with us, Mike.
Yeah, definitely.
Something a little missing with you not with us. So we're glad to have you back. So make sure, everybody, that you join us for our boot camp this week and that you join us for the webinar on Thursday. It's going to be a great week. We look forward to everything that we have coming at you and hope that you have a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.